Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me at True Divine 44, hopefully on Bitchute, but definitely on YouTube. I've been trying to post up on Tublr, getting used to it. I don't really get it, but I'm sure that I will. So I appreciate any of the likes, shares, subscribes and follows. Thank you to the new subscribers. I appreciate those numbers finally going up gradually, more than you know. And to all of the people that have been here from the start and throughout, I appreciate you all. You know the love that I share for all of you guys. So this is the daily energy readings that I put out, the content that I want to support and guide and inspire people to reach their highest potentials with. Take what resonates as it is general, leave what does not. No offense is taken, I can assure you. Parts of the reading might resonate with you, other parts might not. The whole reading might be spot on and like a mini personal reading for you, and the whole reading might not. Take it as it comes. Try not to bend the reading to your will. You don't want to be attracting in things unless you're going to use it to attract good things in. Things that you don't need to be attracting in. You might be past that point. So this is for the 18th of March 2021. Okay, so I can't tell you how serious of a time that we're in. I've spoken a lot about this being another key stage, this whole gestational spell that's been going on with this nonsense that they've been putting out. I've spoken about it, and she goes and loses cards already. I've spoken about it being a next key point, a huge turning point in what would be the Second World War rerun. That we never really got out of that. There's just been a profiteering, a continuation of further war, more war than they could have ever dreamed of, abuses, controls and manipulations, waiting for the point, the right astrological alignments, the right energetic alignments, the right technology to be apparent, to come forward, to be of use to them, to get us to this next key point, which is what this whole fiasco has been about, for many different reasons, for many different levels, but ultimately to have the next World War II Part 2 in a big way. And today the energies are speaking of that really loudly, really, you know, we're at a point of impact, and where we've been feeling this brewing up of this energy and seeing what they're doing. We're in a key point where we really do need in our individual lives to really recognize who we truly are, what our true essence is. Even I'm having a problem even now with speaking of higher self, in that we are a contradiction in terms the way we've been manipulated and controlled, in that in one hand we have been fed this lie of we are the superior beings, that we are the be all and end all of the cosmos, you know, that we are the they, we are the thing. But on the other hand, you know, there's this wording that because we've gotten into such fixed mentalities don't work anymore. And so to speak of even the higher self right now, I'm finding contradictory. I'm speaking about true essence. I'm speaking about another aspect of you, the spiritual aspect of you, neither higher or lower. We've gotten very fixed in the good, the bad, the judgments that we can make on that, on ourselves and on others. The flow and the fixed energy, and so I really want to what's higher, what's lower. And so we've got to stop with this cognitive dissonance and really engage with our whole self, our wholeness, our true essence. In order to move through these energies, we're coming to a point of collision, I feel, in the energies. And that collision can be either used for further degradation of self, further manipulation and control of self, and allowance of others to do so also, or like anything, out of our own chaos, instead of just accepting the chaos and then the antidote that they give us or those around us give us, that we give power to, instead of doing that, but to see within that chaos that we create our order, that we find our own order within ourselves, which creates a wholeness, which creates a power and a force to be reckoned with. And so the energies are, the cards are, sorry, the first card on the bottom of the deck is the Tower card. I refer people back who haven't already seen it. I do writings on the wall videos as much as I can, which are just my psychic knowings, inner knowings, reflections, talk. And so that I put a video out regarding the Tower card. A lot of people get terrified in personal readings when they get the Tower card coming up. So I wanted to give the full explanation from my point of view of the Tower card and the gift that it can be, and how to use it correctly, how to recognize what the energy invitation is, what you can have gleaned from it, what you can gain from it. So please go back to that writing on the wall. I'll find the link and put it in the description box, because it really does give an in-depth explanation as to how you can use the Tower card to your highest potential, to your advantage. So the Tower card here on the bottom of the deck, basically, in short, is speaking about us letting go of the fixed ego that we have built ourselves, the crown, the ego that we've built ourselves, becoming very fixed in that ego of how things should look, how things should be, how things should not look, how things should not be, what we will give allowance for to even be possible and what we will not. Everything that has us very fixed in ego, which has us very fixed in one layer type of energy, very restricted, not in flow. Where the Tower card comes in, it often shows there's something something coming from above, a lightning in the more traditional decks, a lightning strike that's knocking off the crown of the Tower. I'll go into it further with this next card because the Tower is on the other deck. And so it speaks about, it looks like a very destructive energy. And indeed, it can feel that way, because on the bottom of the other deck, we have the Tower card. So two Tower cards. This is where this collision is taking place. Steps are being made in our individual lives where we have gotten fixed in ego, where we have not taken ourselves up on the invitation of things that we've intuitively known we should let go of, or things that we've intuitively known we should run with and build on. This is when the energy of the Tower card comes in, when we're not doing that work, when we're not taking those hints. And indeed, it comes in very much so from the collective stage today, from the so-called powers that be. And when you first look at the Tower card, it looks really destructive. It looks really frightening. In this more traditional depiction, is the black sky, the dark sky. You see the lightning strike. You see this crown here coming off, being blown off. You see fire erupting throughout the Tower. You see the Trinity, the three aspects of self. You see, you see what would be your spirit self, what I'm having a problem with calling higher self right now. I'm just being very precise with words right now. I'm realizing I have to be very very wisdom filled regarding wording and regarding the spelling of wording, in that, it has power. And so I'm taking back that power. And I do that all of the time, but I feel like I'm like on the hot button with that right now. And I feel like a lot of us need to be. So, so you see this fire erupting, you see it coming out of the three windows here. You see a divine feminine, a divine masculine energy, well, feminine and masculine people, female and male, goodness me, Jenny, jumping from the Tower. You see the embers coming off the flames here. You see that this is the tower itself, though, now in other decks, it usually has waves also lashing up at the tower. And so just as it would a lighthouse. But when you look deeper at this card, you see that the crown that represents the ego, that which we have manipulated ourselves into being fixed in, an energy that we've been fixed in, that we've held judgment in, or that we've allowed outside forces to manipulate us into, to fix us into. You see that this is the only thing actually that is being destroyed, that is being popped off the top. The fire actually representing the cleansing. Often, you know, after fire in forests, it grows even more lush, you know, in the next season, because there is a cleansing, there is room made for new strong sprouts to come up and create new foliage, so it creates new growth. So there's a cleansing of the flame, there's a cleansing of the fire. Now, in other cards that represent the tower, the waves would represent that again of cleansing, and it being very turbulent at the time, because when we get fixed in ego, when we get fixed in this egoic energy, we become very blind. We become very these windows, these eyes to our true essence become dimmed. There's no light in them. With this fire, actually, we're lit up inside. Everything is made apparent. Even the darkest shadows of the tower is made very apparent. Things are lit up. And so it feels very turbulent, because we, and this is part of the so-called powers that be, they've learned to hook into our ego, to make us feel like we have powers that we don't within their systems, and to make us very fixed in judgment of the powers that we do possess, that people like me say we possess, and say that we're very easy to brush that off and say nonsense, spiritual woo-woo. And so this is where it does feel turbulent at the time, because we are indoctrinated to become very attached to the fixed ego aspect of self. And so it can feel very harsh. You do feel like you're, you know, what's that word? And then he said ejaculating, and now I've just gone and said it. What's the word? When you press the button in the plane and you pop out of the top of it because you feel the crash coming. But in this tower card, you see that the foundation here, the tower itself, representing your true essence. After seeing the corners of self, after having been enlightened and cleansed through the emotions, working your way through the turbulent emotions that come up because of the attachment to the crown, as we start to see that, we can see, looking deeper at this, there is actually no damage to the true essence of self. In fact, it is more lit, it is passionate, it is lit up, it is in more knowing of itself, because there is light within it. It is cleansed. All of the excess debris that this ego, this crown represented, the falsehoods that this represented of self, are gone. They're being cleansed away. Now, with the two towers, it doesn't happen very often. With these two tower energies coming in, we really are at a point where, and this is where I wish I had more time to study astrology, because it's happening really slowly. I have a real connection with the planets. I can look through the lenses of the planets and feel through the lenses of the planets, but to have time to learn all of the science behind it, the alignments, the degrees, I'm taking my time, but I love it. And it feels like if I had an astrologer here next to me right now, they would be able to say, well, this is this alignment, and it feels very Mars-like. It feels very challenging. It feels very forceful. Now, Mars in particular, and I'm just going on intuition here, that in particular, Mars has this sort of, it's represented as just like a warring planet, as just bringing war. the Tower card, in the same way, which is why I did the Tower video, is that it's represented as just a negative card, when actually within what feels very negative, there is the biggest gift of recognizing your true essence, getting back to your true self, getting rid of all of the excess bullshit that you've indoctrinated yourself with or allowed others to indoctrinate you with, and really recognizing, getting down to the nitty gritty of you. And from this place, it's from this place that you come forward into your true power, into more of knowing thyself, which is a major part, let's face it, of this experience, to know thyself and to make a difference through the experiences of learning how to know thyself more within this realm. And so, but it feels like this alignment where, you know, to look deeper at things, to see things from a different perspective, to not just look at something and immediately just look at the negative, but to be able to dig deeper as to where you can glean the positives, where you can wring out the benefits for you, the potentials that you can reach through the energies that you face, and to be brave within those, to get the most out of those. And it takes bravery to let go of that which we are fixed with within the ego. It takes a lot of bravery, and the ego fights back, which is why the Tower energy comes in. It feels far more easy, in particular with the so-called powers that be, and the way these systems are, and the way we have become as humanity. It actually feels easier to cling on to the fix, to cling on to the illusion that ego represents or presents to us, than it does to know our true selves, to recognize our true selves, to be able to stand in our true power. Look at the ego a little bit like in these two cards anyway. Look at it a little bit like a mask, ironically, that you wear to hide your true light, to hide your true self, to hide the backbone of you and what you truly would wish to represent. It is like when people try too hard to cover up their it's a ridiculous example, but I got bitten because I was in the garden, and I got bitten by something the other day. And this morning I looked at it and I was like, oh, and I'm trying to cover it and trying to cover it. And then in the end, I get to the Jenny point and just think, looks worse trying to cover it. It's where you try so hard to cover up, and the layers build up of this ego, just like the layers of makeup was building up. And I don't like wearing a lot, so it felt funny. And in the end, I ended up just wiping it off and saying, look, it is what it is. So being brave to be your is what it is, to be brave to be your true representation of self, letting go of the even the wanting of others for you to represent yourself in a certain way. There's some of you even in relationships where you have even changed your dress code, and it's becoming apparent to you. It's like you've just gotten this remembrance of, I used to dress really hippie-like. I used to dress really quirky. I used to dress, I used to do funny things. With my hair or with my makeup, or I was quirky, and you recognize that just because of what your partner wants you to represent, you've slowly but surely moved into that masculine ego. And so you're actually not just carrying your ego, but you're carrying the ego of that of a partner that can't accept you the way you want to be seen. And so this is something that one of you or some of you are dealing with. And these are the things that within the energies of today, we take charge and take into account, and hold ourselves accountable to ourselves, and let go of that which is shrouding us, that is hiding us, hiding our true essence. As far as the collective stage, I feel like I feel like things are going off in many different levels. I feel like there's some kind of collision of energies regarding the likes of CERN-like technology, where mistakes are made today, and it feels like there's some kind of explosion, implosion. Whether that'll be seen as the collective or not, I do feel like there's going to be a cover story as to what this really was. You know, some kind of accidental explosion. There's mistakes being made here. As far as from the so-called powers that be, in the positive side, they have over the generations, and these beings even behind them, they've been in this game so long, so they've got this generational also indoctrination, and ironically, like a virus, has built up and been passed down. And it's like when you have maybe an infection and you have to take antibiotics all of the time for a medical condition, you become one of the dangers is that the bacteria within your body become resistant. They learn how to be resistant. They build how a resistance to the antibiotics. In theory, eventually you would run out of the type of antibiotics or strength that you could possibly take as a human for them to work or work half as effectively. And it feels like the ego, the crown that has been fed to these puppets, these so-called powers that be, that puppet themselves in front of us as directed by the beings directing them in the shadows, have been given these crowns generationally, that their ego, their crown is out of control. They have burnt out any chakra system, any energy point system that they have. They've threaded those screws. They've got a screw loose, and that cannot be recaptured. They've gone too far, and so they're making mistakes because they're in so much ego, they are in so much arrogance, that there is not enough of us to actually question. And this is the power today, to question and make those questions heard. Every video that you see them puppeting themselves, make a comment, say, "You liar, we know you're lying. This isn't true." Whatever the video might be, make a noise. It's time to take action today in our individual lives, and very much so against these psychopaths. They are now in a state of sociopath, psychopathic, not tendencies, entireties. And so they are making mistakes out of their own arrogance. So where we are facing the towers and in manipulated tower moments that are being pushed upon us via them, the gift is for us in seeing our true self and not being afraid to represent our true self and speak up and question from our core strength, from our power of our true self, our holistic whole self. Then we can actually see and speak up that these people are not in a position anymore with these two towers. They're not in a position anymore. So if we all were to stay quiet and continue to do as we were told, as we should have never done, if we were all to do that, then yeah, they'd get away with it. There's enough people that are within their own egos that won't listen to these energies, that will have these awful tower moments coming in, and they'll think that, it's just like in World War II, it's the conscious ones to blame because we didn't mask our faces up, or they'll think, well, it was that terrible invisible thing, that was to blame. So yes, they could get away with it that way, but the fact is that there are plenty of us that can see the gift within these tower moments, within these tower energies, and actually use it against them, because these tower moments are happening within them, but they are so far gone that they are clinging onto this crown. So no matter how many mistakes are made today, and it feels like there's going to be some real stupid mistakes, real stupid words coming out of Boris's mouth and another female in the UK in particular, in the US, even in Canada, I feel today that there's going to be these stupid mistakes made, these ridiculous CGI type moments where they put the wrong character on, something so ridiculous that a blind man on a galloping horse can see, and we are there to see, but we need to raise our voice and say, we saw that, that's ridiculous, by the way, and share it, make these mistakes go viral, hold them to account, also do it officially, because they are so much in ego, they really feel they've got this stitched up, and the more mistakes they make, they're not even going to backtrack on that, they're just going to think that they can ride it out and be able to just ride it out enough that people don't question. They really feel they've got it stitched up with this whole conspiracy theorist thing, spiritualist thing, psychic thing, that enough people are indoctrinated to think like that, but there's an awakening today happening. And so I know that that's a lot of mumbled up words, but I hope it makes sense to you, because the impact of this can be huge. The potentials and the breakthroughs of this can be huge on the view of the conscious people being able to be saying, enough's enough playing psychopathic children, you've done your doing. The ridiculousness of today is almost hilarious. If it wasn't so serious, it would be hilarious, and find the humor in that too. But so dealing with self, dealing with any kind of ego that is veiling you from yourself, that is covering up your ability to stand in your true essence, is super powerful today. And also calling them out on their bullshit when they're making these ridiculous mistakes is super powerful today, and actually has a chance to open a lot more people's eyes. And so they've like this generational ego virus that has been passed down to these people, where they've just been given the power, no question. They're lined up by their dates of birth and their names, knowing that they're going to get some role at some time, and they're going to be called up, just like people are called up onto the stage to do their part in the play and then exit left. They're so much in ego and so much in like they feel like the guarantee of it all. It's ridiculous. And so they are you actually will look at some things today and you'll think, surely they're going to mention that he just said that, or surely they're going to mention that we just saw that on the screen. And they don't. They're so far gone that we are judging them from a balanced state of mind. And this is not these powers that be, these puppets that are doing their bidding. They're not balanced. They're poorly. They're gone. They're just being used at this point by those things in the shadows that are puppeting them. They're being used, for all they're worth, and they think that they've got this power and control. It's laughable that they're in even more of an illusion than a lot of the collective. So as above, so below, right? But there are these authorities that came up yesterday, that there's a few people in authority in roles of medicine, in roles of politics, not so much politics, but law, that are rising up even more within the energies of these towers, because they can see the ridiculousness of it. And so they are calling that out a lot more. So look out for that, become a part of that, keep the pressure on that. This must be stopped. This is ridiculous. It does not need to be this way. Just like in these two tower energies, recognizing the true essence and true power and true beauty of you, the real representation of you, and in flow with you and growth with you. That's how it can be here. There is no reason for these things to go on. There is no reasons for these constructs of power. There's no reasons for these constructs and systems to cause such abuse, other than we've been the sleeping beauties for too long, other than we've been far too easily coerced, and far too easily giving of our power to anything outside of us, just so we can say, oh, we're not to blame. They are the ones in power. Well, the ones in power are doing exactly the same thing, just they've got the money to manufacture the thing to cause the problem, then blame the thing that they manufactured for the problem, never accepting blame for self. Cuomo, something's happening with him today where mistakes are made. Something is said. I don't know whether it's a hot mic or whatever it is, but there's a real tower moment coming in for that guy. Something might have changed there. I don't know if he's going to make a huge mistake, like a hot mic type moment. So look out for that. As the first card, we've got the Ace of Swords. So it's going to the head of the snake. If we can get rid of the excess of the distractions and whatnot, if we can get to the head, the body is very incapacitated to do much. And so this Ace of Swords represents clarity. And this, with these two towers on the bottom of the deck, this speaks about being able to really see and be in your clarity, in your clarified moments where you clarify with self what you need to be letting go of, where you haven't been representing your true self, where you haven't been standing in your power. This is a forceful ace. This is a forceful card where there is absolute wisdom and a newly gained inner standing, understanding, overstanding of self, of the situation, and it's more ruthless than the other aces in that it is ready to cut the head off the snake. It's ready to let go because this clarity is powerful. You can see in this card these warriors in the background with their swords, because we're actually going for the source of the problem. And this speaks to the collective stage too, because we are not, the veil is being dropped with these two very impactful energies here. Because of that, this gives us time and space as warriors, because the head of the snake is being cornered, it's being held. It gives time for charging in to create real change elsewhere. I still say that there should be some kind of people's actions at the borders, regardless of the authorities. When are we going to realize that it's only is as it is because we have been told that these people should be in power, that power constructs should look the way that they look. The beings behind these puppets and the so-called powers that be, their main weapon has been to give the illusion of freedom, the illusion of grandeur, of what it means to be a human, when the true reasoning is that we are awesome beings. We are very powerful, beautiful energies. But that makes us no higher or lower than the animals that are here with us. That makes us no more important or less important. And that goes for other beings. And there's something about the fact that whatever powers, whatever sources of energy we are housing in these human bodies, there is enough of that that they still want to maintain the life of the human. They still want to maintain that. They still can't eliminate that yet. So their main power is to cause an illusion, to indoctrinate us, to veil our own eyes to what we are, to distract us so much and so far away and get us so fixed in religious constructs, literally write history so that we are stuck in belief systems because that's how it's been since ancient times. Well, I beg to differ. And I argue with most of the history that is taught in mainstream media and mainstream schools, that it wasn't fixed, that it isn't fixed. Energy is flowing. And there's a need for energies needing energies. The same as the flowers need us, we need the flowers. The same as the animals need us, we need the animals. There's relationship there, not worship. So this speaks of having the wisdom, having the clarity to be able to really get down to the nitty-gritty truths of self, and therefore being able to reflect that clarity into the outer stage. Yeah, there's this false consciousness. You know, the pharaohs have like the cobra here on top of their head, and it's represented too. One of the representations is that it's of the higher consciousness, it's of the pineal gland being awakened, because they saw the energy of the snake and the ability and strength of the snake to not have to hold on to anything around it, but to be able to elevate itself to the height of a man, to look a man right in the eye. And so it's representation of that Kundalini energy that can rise up with such force to really see the man, awaken the man's third eye to himself, to be able to have the strength to face himself, and have the clarity. So where this false light has been veiling and feeding people's egos regarding this savior complex, these belief systems, this what's that, victory saluting or victory fisting, can't think, but that the false consciousness of my religion, your religion, this political figure, that political figure, this side, the clarity cuts right through that with this Ace of Swords and holds down the false consciousness, this false light that has seeped into everything. They've learned how to hijack everything, even spirituality. So to really get down to the nitty-gritty truths, the true essence, is so important today and so powerful. And this is where we see, clarifying this Ace of Swords, we see the World card. So another major arcana. So 3 major arcanas already. This is where we see there's some kind of huge alignment happening. That the controllers that have been hijacking and controlling this realm to a great extent know about. I feel a lot of them have been watching and waiting for this time as an escape route. And I'm gonna have to go more hard in the paint because I'm being pushed to do so. And so this is where there is so much more to what is going on, and the energy transference, the transference rainbow, the energetic transference rainbow that the Norse speak of, that transfers the energy to the different realms, to the 9 realms. There's a lot about the 9, and this is where I feel I can see that they've been waiting for these alignments. They've been working on these alignments for various different reasons. One of which is to, I feel, veil themselves, almost like if you're in a zombie movie and the zombies only want live meat, right? So you get a dead zombie and you cover yourself in the guts of the zombie. Then you can walk amongst the zombies, because they're not going to want to eat you, because they don't eat each other. They just want live meat. They don't want zombie meat. Don't know where that came from. It will make sense to who it's meant to. It feels like some of this experimentation that has been going on is to see how they can literally wear our skin. These beings that are in the shadows, that have been in control for far too long of this realm, I feel are stuck here. And it feels like some of the experimentation that I was picking up on a long time ago, of finding a way to detach the soul from the being, is to almost on one level, for one of the reasons of that, because there are many, is to literally almost wear the skin, if you like, of the soul. Did Hannibal Lecter do that? Can't remember, but that's the kind of one of the things I'm picking up on, as far out as that sounds. I know information will come out later down the line that will show this, and for those of you that have been picking up on the same things, you'll know this. And so this is where the tower energies are so important, and become even more important, that looking deeper to what can be gained from the energies that are there is so important, in that we need to be connected to every level of self. I feel like the soul, I keep seeing the Norse boats, the Viking boats, and how they were depicted as almost, for that energy rainbow, that transference of energy throughout the different realms, throughout their different worlds, was used as a carrying vehicle. It's a little bit like the river of Styx that is spoken about. You know, you need to get into this vessel to be able to be carried over to another side, to transfer the energy to another realm. So there's a real calling upon us to have the due diligence to use these energies of these two tower cards to really connect with our true self holistically, in wholeness, every aspect of ourselves, our physical self, spiritual self, emotional self, mental self, passionate, creative self, our soul, that would encapsulate all of that, is so important. Because I feel like some of you that are listening this today will be able to look at some people around you, and even look at some people in the limelight, and recognize a point where this makes sense, that they have been detached from their soul energetically. Some frequencies, some jabs in the arm, some illnesses, some of them having about a year of those kinds of things just happening. Looking back, I feel that some of these people have been successfully detached from their carrier vessel, and it's to wear it like skin. So that's, you know, take it as you will. It's one of the things that are going on with this world card, and the clarity of what's really going on behind the scenes. That yes, they are using these distraction techniques because they need to reset the systems that ultimately we're going to be seen with these tower energies, the financial system, the collisions that are coming regarding that, but also on a deeper level. There's a reason that they need to almost hurry up and get out of this realm. There's a reasoning, and it comes up with the Judgment card. That hasn't come up today, but you know, as others like ourselves, conscious beings, highly conscious beings, are being enlightened more and more, and are unlocking many keys naturally through our energy point systems to the realities and possibilities. It feels like they're up against the clock, to sort of beat that from happening in great numbers. There's so much to be said here. I'm going to go into the next cards because this could turn into like a 4-hour reading for the stuff that's coming up. So we've got the Nine of Swords. So the Nine of Swords, I'm sure this came up yesterday. So this is speaking of, you can see here, another head getting cut off. This is brutal. The Nine of Swords being that nightmare card, and she's reacting out of, she's in a passionate reaction, she's in red, and she's fired up. Again, it is being done with a sword. The Nine of Swords is speaking of when and how much does it take for us to see and know, for us to continue to give up our power. And we are doing that first and foremost and most powerfully in the mental aspect of self, our projector, that we are continuing, no matter, you know, what is shown as a collective, to give up this power and still listen to a word these authorities say, to still give them all of the power that they need to be 250 trillion this, you know, 100 million this, ridiculousness. And this is where I was speaking about, it's so ridiculous that a blind man on a galloping horse, and it's almost infuriating at times. I think, how can everybody not see at this point that we are giving up our power to psychopaths that are sacrificing us? Now, the underlayer, the underbelly of this, from the collective point of view, the things that I've spoken about in the past, the experimentation that is going on, the sacrifices that are being made, both ritualistically in the low frequency light, to open up spiritual doors to other realms, to get their physical highs that take them on their spiritual ritualistic endeavors, is huge. That is happening in a great deal. The sacrifices that we see in the 3D with our own eyes, regarding even the borders, regarding the things that are going on with certain shootings that I know are going to come up, or the wars, Syria. They are sacrifices. There's no good reason. The only reasons are hidden, and therefore their benefit: financial, yes; control, yes; to get to portals, stargates, things, keys that they need in these ancient lands, yes. And because we are accepting this, we are accepting a mass ritual sacrifice on many levels. This ritual sacrifice comes in hot and heavy today, and I know it will come out either in the now or in the future, that huge amounts of people crossed over due to experiments, and us being accepting of the sacrifice of self to literally be experimented on. This is what you would call, and it's in no way soft disclosure for the families that are in loss because of this, but this is their soft disclosure for everything that I've been speaking about that happens in the shadows. And the consent being given by people still saying yes to these things, or still just staying passive to these things, is physical and spiritual consent. They're building up the soft disclosure and the acceptance of sacrifices such as this for their greater good. Because more and more truths are going to come out, more and more things cannot stay hidden. So what isn't soft disclosure at all, it is brutal and murderous, and psychopathic. It is sacrificial. is actually to pave the way for the acceptance and consent of much more mass ritualistic sacrifice of life, and for the truths coming out regarding these experiments that are happening regarding using human organs to use the frequency given off from them to charge up machines, to create keys, portals, doorways of to do that energy transference at will into these different realms. This is the soft disclosure. They're doing it right in front of our eyes in order. And the other aspect of that is that I feel a lot of you are going to start, for those who've got their eyes to see and ears to hear, and even some who haven't, are going to start getting much more and bigger shocks regarding anomalies in the sky, anomalies in the seas. There's this, with this world card and this Ace of Swords, there's these alignments and doorways opening up to show what has really been going on around us the whole time. But there has been these degrees of separation where these realms have been more locked off from one another. And as you're going through a transition of letting go of one realm, one reality in the physical, to move into the next realm, it feels like there has been such hop, skips and jumps into them being able to, and still working on getting even better at it, of transferring themselves at will throughout these realms. Not everybody within the other realms want that, you know, not being in these other realms, I feel through my visions, through my connections, want that. They don't want these psychopaths being able to jump ship whenever they want into their realm. Who would? And so this is where, when is it going to be enough? Literally in this card, you can see they've literally got a barbecue here going of organs, and people in waiting, you know, with all of the colors of the chakra system on them. I'm going to do a video on this, and I know I keep saying that I'm going to make the time. Look at the many heads on the ground here. This is brutal soft disclosure for that which is even more brutal and even more out there. Hey, Theodore, going to change the tone real quick for little ears coming in. So we've got, to clarify the 9 of Swords, we have the 4 of Swords, but it's in reverse. And so this is where people are being, we're talking about that detached. It means upside down, baby. This is where people are detaching themselves from the other aspects of themselves, wait for little years to go out, and the progress of the detachment of these souls. And this is also happening on a day-to-day basis, in that people are so distracted, so upset, so burnt out, they're forgetting to take the time out to connect with self, which is what we are really being called to do, because this speaks of meditation, this speaks of time of reflection, being comfortable with you and with those 2 tower energies on the bottom of the deck. This speaks volumes, being in control and in connection, working with all aspects of self, and knowing how that feels and looks to you, very much so, is more important than ever, I feel, especially coming up into the future, for when you may naturally transition into another realm, through that rainbow of the transference of energy, or, you know, for those of you to stop you being a viable source for this to be happening by the hands of another. So that's very important. We've got, as the next card, the 8 of Swords. This would be the imprisonment of self, being so distraught with the energies of the Tower card. This would be where people close down, they lock down, they hunker down, and they create their own prisons. They put their own bird cages around their own heads. This is where in other cards, the lady is bound up, not tightly, but and blindfolded. It's like you can't see the wood for the trees anymore. It's the thought carousel where the thoughts are flying thick and fast, so much so that you can't get to that point of clarity. So this is where we really do see the separation of the collective, where we're going to witness today a lot of people in this energy, and conversely we're going to witness a lot of people in their power, in their clarity. And so you couldn't get further apart, but it's for the person themselves to get themselves out of this self-imprisonment of mind, too much mind, and not a mind that is being channeled and used and in flow, but a mind that is actually fixed but full and fast. So this speaks of that too. It does speak to some maybe physical prison sentences coming down the works. So that's difficult to deal with if it's within your family, within your friendship group. As far as the collective stage, there's something about Assange going to start firing up again. There's something about that that is going to, certain truths that are going to come out about that. I hope he's not passing over, but there's the potential of that. So be aware of that. Now, with that being said, within this energy, like everything, just like the Tower cards can feel so brutal, this is a very brutal energy to be in, because there ain't no prison like your own mind prison. We are torturous to self when we get in these energies sometimes. Now, the gift of this card is to the thoughts that are coming up. You can use them as flag points. And if you've got a loved one that's in this energy, you can maybe explain it this way for them to write down the thoughts. Just go real fast, writing down all of the thoughts. One, that helps channel the mind to give it a bit of space, give it a bit of breathing space to focus that energy, the energy transference of the thought into physical manifestation of the wording on the paper does huge amounts in the first instance. Then at that point, they can start looking at what they've written and maybe doing other pointers as to, okay, so I'm thinking that, how does that make me feel? Quickly writing down the feeling attached to that. You can start drilling down that way. This way you start to show yourself that you can get control of the wheel again, that you don't have to be in free fall. You don't have to be stuck on this carousel. You start into, instead of going round and round in your mind, you start into channel that energy and focus that energy into something that you can then pick at, drill down on, and get to the nitty gritty core of the issue. And this is where things become then a lot smaller, problems become a lot smaller. The mind is calmed, and you can actually stop attracting even more imprisoning energies into your life, because you are not focused on that. You're not stuck in that whirlpool of thought. This is where the Star card comes in, and this is where real healing can happen. So this is the gift of this card, where a lot of people have just been paddling underwater, feeling this way for a long time. There comes to this point where you get to this almost, crash point, where people say people need to hit rock bottom almost. The life has been in free fall for a long time. They hit rock bottom, and then there is the opportunity for them to either, sink even further into the ground or rise. And this is where, with the Star card energy, there's this circuit board of healing. You can see she's creating a circuit board here with her foot in the water, her knee and foot on the ground, and she's transmuting the emotions. She's transmuting all of the wounds, all of the hurts, all of the things are starting to make sense. And she brings healing, she brings hope. Very much in the dream realm, a lot of these thoughts that were causing nightmares, especially with that 9 of Swords there. Doing this process, going through these energies, doing tools and ways like writing them down and making them smaller helps you in the sleep realm to then start creating real healing and making sense of where the healing needs to occur, why it needs to occur, how to go about that. So make sure when you're waking up or giving advice to anybody, write down those dreams, write down the colors that you see, the numbers that you see, and let it help it unfold. This is where we go through these wombs of healing, these 7 wombs, these Pleiadian star systems, the 7 sisters. We go through this, and it's a bridge. The number 7 is that spiritual bridge, and so this is where we can bridge that gap. And you see this lady in the card is creating a bridge. You know, she's creating a circuit board where her backbone is the bridge, and she's creating this flow where the water is feeding the ground and transmuting through her and going in. It's like this beautiful pond, you know, it's creating and cultivating healing. And so that is the reading. I'm going to leave it there because I've done some long readings the last couple of days. Much necessary. Again, the number 17, huge amounts of healing and strength. The star card is a strong warrior in itself. It's a warrior energy that is not afraid to look at the truth of something in order to create true healing, real strength and hope to go forward with. And that is the gift of where we start off with the Tower card at number 16, and we transmute there at the end into number 17. So with the things being lit up and cleansed and blown off the top with the Tower energy that feels ruthless, go into this clarity point, seeing the world in a different light, and go into this sort of spiral of mental free fall, and then this healing can come in. So through this chaos, you can create your own order. Which I probably could have said and wrapped up the whole reading in 5 minutes, but there's a lot in that for different people and different reasons. So take what resonates. Leave a comment. I appreciate and love you all. Be strong, be brave, and be bold today. Reach your highest potentials within self. There's so much that can be taken and given to self today that would set you up in your power, and that's exactly where we need to be. Interesting things to come out regarding the collective stage. I shared a bit more than usual today regarding that, and see where that goes. I appreciate you all. Mwah.